The Dance of Dragons, a true telling by Grandmaster Munken, being a history of the war of Targaryen succession between the Princess Rhaenyra and Aegon, second of his name, that nearly destroyed the realm.
The Dance of the Dragons. A stupid name for a Targaryen civil war where my ancestors danced away my birthright. Before the war, House Targaryen counted 18 dragons. By the end, we had 2, and nearly as few Targaryens. We would never be as powerful or as feared again. The dance began, as many dances do, with an old man and a young girl. The queen had failed to produce a son for her king, so he anointed his daughter, the Princess Rhaenyra, as his heir. But years later, the king remarried, and his new wife, Queen Alicent of House Hightower, gave him a son. Feeble and foolish, the old king refused to change the succession. He didn't even see how his court had split into 2 rival camps of blacks and greens, after the dresses that the princess and the queen had worn to some tourney. One night, a servant...
Though the expanded Dune universe by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson offers some contradicting dates and accounts to the Dune Encyclopedia, the encyclopedia provides the most comprehensive timeline of the Dune universe. Though in the original Frank Herbert Dune books, Earth is lost in the mist of time, the encyclopedia offers dates stretching all the way from humanity's early beginnings on Earth to a few thousand years after the death of the God Emperor Leto II, up until the in-universe publication of the encyclopedia itself in 1540 AG. The encyclopedia dates the earliest civilizations on Earth, or Terra, as somewhere around 19,000 BG. This is not an exact date because it was far too long ago to measure precisely. This would be around 2800 BC using real-world measurements of time. The Dune Encyclopedia dates the rise and fall of the Roman Empire as somewhere in between 16400 BG and 16,000 BG. This is somewhat relevant because the Atreides can trace their ancestry back to Rome. 1900 standard years later, in 14100, the colonization of the solar system begins. It was known as the Little Diaspora. The word diaspora refers to a scattered population. The word in the real world is most commonly associated with the Jewish expulsion from Israel, which was called the Jewish diaspora. Over the course of the next 500 standard years, the population of Earth decreased by approximately 2,000%. One of the first planets colonized during the diaspora was Ceres, and when Earth was struck by an asteroid in 13402 BG, Ceres became the imperial capital. 400 years later, Terra was reseeded and declared a natural park by the current reigning emperor. By 12200 BG, humanity had expanded to...
Listen to me. He made the coronavirus happen.
What?
Why?
God did no such thing.
If God is so good, why did he make the coronavirus?
God did not create the coronavirus!
Okay, but why isn't he healing the world right now?
We're healing the world, slowly at a time.
Slowly at a time. When's the world supposed to heal, Bill? Next year? I don't have next year to stay in my fucking house. I got shit to do.
Don't say the curse word! Listen, Ricky. No. Listen.
Okay?
Don't ever disrespect me like that again, or I'm going to come over there and slap your cheeks.
I command the coronavirus to leave. I am the new God. The old God is out of here. I am God. Coronavirus.
You are not a God!
Leave.
You're not a God!
Leave.
You're not a God, Ricky! You're a sinner!
God. I have a vision. The coronavirus
You're not a
is
God!
going to be controlled in May. May, the coronavirus will be no more.
I'm gonna have to slap your cheeks in a second.
Slap my cheeks? Why?
Because you're trying to be God!
And that deserves a slap in the cheek.
I'm gonna have to slap your cheeks, whether you like it or not.
Are you gay, bro? You're fucking gay. And as the fucking god,
I'm not gay. I like women.
and
I
you
got protected.
you are Lucifer.
Get out! Get out! Right.
Like this.
10 more interstellar colonies, ruled by a single emperor, though communication between worlds was difficult in those times. A millennia later, humanity had entered what was known as the Empire of 1,000 Worlds. This may have literally referred to 1,000 planets, however, it is also possible that it merely referred to a large number of planets. In this time, imperial power was far too sparse to claim supremacy over the entire interstellar confederation. It was an empire only in name. By 11105 BG, a rebellion had destroyed the seat of imperial power on the planet Ceres. This was the beginning of what the encyclopedia calls the Age of Pretenders. Eventually, many smaller empires would emerge, and many emperors during the Great Dark Ages, which was also known as the Age of 10,000 Emperors. This age would last nearly 4,000 years, seeing the Thinkers' Rebellion of 7600 BG and the birth of Abraham von Holtzmann in 7593 BG, who the encyclopedia credits as the discoverer of the Holtzmann effect. The Dark Ages ended when Holtzmann demonstrated the Holtzmann effect and revealed his discoveries. The Holtzmann effect provided a means of instant communication between worlds. His theories would also lead to the invention of the Holtzmann drive, which provided faster than light space travel. For the next 2,500 standard years after the discovery of the Holtzmann effect, the wars of reunification were waged until finally Ladislaus the Great united mankind into a single empire, starting what was called the First Golden Age. Sometime during this age, sand trout were first brought to the then wet planet Arrakis. The years 1800 BG through 200 BG saw the rise and fall of the Second Golden Age and the beginning of the Butlerian Jihad, when a crusade was led against all thinking machines in the Imperium. By 108 BG, the last thinking machine was destroyed. In 88 BG, during the Battle of Corinne, Sardaukar soldier Demetrios Atreides assumed command of the vessel Luta after the senior officers had all perished. Because of his actions here, he was named Baron of the planet Tantalos by Emperor Shusett, the first Padishah Emperor, whose house would later change its name from Costin to Corino after the planet Corin. In 84 BG, the abilities of the spice melange to aid in space travel was discovered. In 5 BG, Chom Company is founded, and by the year 0, the Imperial Seat, the Spacing Guild, and Chom Company, which contained the Landsraad, the great houses of the Imperium, joined together to form the Imperium as we know it to be. Every year after this contains the epoch AG, meaning after Guild, as opposed to BG, meaning before Guild. Over the next 10,000 years, nearly 300 emperors would sit the imperial seat. The year 1234 saw the formation of the Order of Mentat by Gilbertus Albon, a famous philosopher and logician. It began on the planet Septimus, and in 1244, the Order of Mentat moved to the planet Tleilax. In 3367 AG, the Empire saw the first instance of a War of Assassins when House Harkonnen feuded with House Party. A War of Assassins is warfare of a limited nature, which involved the use of professional assassins among rivaling great houses of the Landsraad. In 6600 AG, a Zensuni Sayadina on the planet Rossik discovered a plant which had properties which allowed it to unlock inner lives. She becomes the first Wild Reverend Mother. By 7193, all of the Zensuni Wanderers, who would later become the Fremen, had arrived on Arrakis. In 8677 AG, Paulos Atreides XVI moved his entire family from the planet Gallatin to the paradise world of Caladan, which was granted to the house by Emperor Elrond VIII. In 10140 AG, Leto Atreides I is born, and in 10156 AG, Shaddam IV becomes Emperor of the Imperium. Paul Atreides was born in 10175 AG, and in the year 10190 AG, House Atreides gained the fiefdom over the planet Arrakis, also known as Dune. By 10193 AG, Paul Atreides had gained control of the Imperium through his control of the spice melange. By 10196 AG, the Jihad had begun. Paul's Fremen spread throughout the galaxy. The Fremen who had once fled subjugation now oppressed billions. In 102-19 AG, the reign of the god Emperor Leto II began. He ruled for 3,500 years and died in the year 13724 AG according to the encyclopedia, but 13728 AG began. He ruled for begun. Paul's Fremen spread throughout the galaxy. The Fremen who had once fled subjugation now oppressed billions. In 102-19 AG, the reign of the god Emperor Leto II began. He ruled for 3,500 years and died in the year 13724 AG according to the encyclopedia, but 13728 AG according to the original saga. In 14702 AG, what was thought to be the first evidence of non-human biological intelligent life forms was discovered on the planet Crumpton. They had detected ruins on the planet's surface by use of a low-altitude satellite. A ground crew was Dispatched, but they discovered no remaining intelligent life. The Spacing Guild was certain that no human had ever set foot on the planet beforehand, and the ruins were thought to be between 3,000 and 5,000 years old. Later, however, the idea of alien intelligence was debunked when it became clear that this was more likely a no-room created by Leto II, though they still had no idea why or when he built it. In 15200 AG, some of those who fled the famine times into the scattering after the death of the worm god emperor began to return to the old empire. Among them were the honored Matres. In the year 15525, the god emperor's journals are discovered. He had recorded them, his record of his life and his accounts of his inner lives, on Redulian crystals, hidden on Arrakis. He had left them there to be discovered by humanity at a future date. The full timeline of the Dune universe, according to the Encyclopedia, spans over roughly 34,000 years. By the end of it all, humanity has spread to the very furthest reaches of space. No single human could ever catalog all of humanity at this